Well, Alabama was the second time we played them, and this will be the case here with Tennessee going on the road and playing against them. Playing very, very good basketball, played exceptionally well at home, and I think our guys understand this will be a great test and challenge for us tomorrow night.
Okay, our first question is from Brian Hamilton of SI.com.
Hey, Billy, kind of two related questions on the same subject. How has your discussion with players about dealing with fan behavior changed or evolved over the years, for one?
Well, I think the one thing that, I think every coach does, I'm probably no different than anybody else, is, to focus on what's going on inside the lines, and every guy on every team has got a job to do, has got responsibilities and things that they need to do to help their team. And, getting, in a situation where you get distracted from doing your job, based on what's going on outside the lines, doesn't help them as individuals, it doesn't help our team. So, we just, try to keep ourselves focused on doing our jobs and, staying locked in and focused on what we need to do, between the lines, because we've got enough of a problem, I think, for every team when you go on the road to play of dealing with the opponent than you do trying to battle what's going on in the stands.
I guess just on the crowds themselves, I mean, are there lines being crossed between tough and uncivil, where you can be tough on a team, but do you find crowds being just more uncivil and sort of crossing that line a little more often now? What can schools do to prevent that, maybe?
Yeah, I think it happens. I think like in every venue, and again, there are going to be fans that, maybe spend more time dealing with the opponent instead of maybe cheering for their own team. And I think that's where the problem comes in. And then you'll have fans, and I'm not excluding Florida from this at all, so I'm putting all fans into this. And again, I'm not behind the opposing team's bench in our building, so I don't know what's being said. But, when you do go on the road, I'm sure our fans in some ways can be, no different than anybody else's. You get to a point then when the focus starts to become on the other players, coaches, team, what ends up happening is inevitably that stuff can end up crossing the line, with what's being said, from fans. And, that's the unfortunate part. But, like I said, our guys here have a responsibility to conduct themselves and to do what they need to do in between the lines. And, that's where we try to place our focus, is on those things.
Thanks, Billy.
Okay.
Next up is Pat Forty of Yahoo Sports.
Hey, Billy. I'm kind of the same topic as Brian's working on there. My question, I guess, is there a responsibility for the home school to somehow try to either encourage civil behavior from fans or discourage or punish those who do cross the line?
Well, I do think it's a responsibility for every institution. I know there's stuff played, pretty much in every arena across the country about, handling yourself with class, with sportsmanship, those kind of things. I think every school in the country probably tries to do some of those things. But you do have people that obviously verbally do cross the line, in some of those situations. I think the one thing that's happened, which has probably been a positive for college basketball, at least being in this league for as long as I've been in it, there was a time where there was a lack of control once a game ended, and fans would end up storming the court. And I know we had a couple situations years ago, where our players got intentionally run into, bumped, hit, and it really could have escalated into something a lot worse. When you've got a team full of 13 guys that are in a competitive situation and emotions are running high in a competitive venue, and now you bring fans onto the court, you are opening yourself up to something really bad happening. And I know that our league has really tried to go to some pretty good extremes, I think, to making sure that, fans are not coming across onto the court, interacting with players right when the game ends. And I know in the Texas Tech game against Oklahoma State, there were fans on the floor, and thank God it didn't escalate into something that could have been far worse. But I think most leagues right now are trying to do things to manage the crowd where the players can get off in a civil fashion safely.
Okay. Thanks, Billy.
Okay.
Next question is from Jimmy Himes of Sports Talk in Knoxville.
Billy, have you ever had a senior emerge the way Casey Prather has, and what's been the key to his improvement?
Well, I think he's gotten better. I think for him, I really started to see some signs really after the end of his sophomore year. We had an injury to Will You Get, and he played very, very well in the SEC tournament and played very well in the NCAA tournament. And really was kind of expecting some big things from him his junior year. Last year, he really got hobbled with some injuries. He had a couple concussions. We thought he had broke his foot. He was out for a while with that. And, his junior year was riddled with a lot of injuries. But I started to see some growth and improvement out of him after his sophomore year. And then now this year, although he has battled some injuries, I think for the most part he's been relatively healthy. He's been in a good frame of mind. And I think probably his experience as being a senior and going through the ups and downs of a normal college career has probably helped him grow and mature and develop as a player. And, he's in a much, much better place in terms of his own personal awareness of his game, what his strengths and weaknesses are, and how he can impact the game on both ends.
Do you think that Scotty Wilbekin has developed into one of the 2 or 3 best point guards in the SEC?
Well, I think there's a lot of really good guards in this league. I've got a lot of confidence in Scotty. He's been a good player for us. He's been one of those guys that has really been, consumed with winning and not necessarily his role. He has really done everything that we've asked him to do, for most of his career, at least the first 2 years here. He really was just a defensive stopper for us. We had enough offense around him his first 2 years where that really wasn't his role. Last year he got involved where he was able to become a little bit more of a scorer for us. And I think this year being his senior year, I think that he's really kind of blossomed into a guy that's a terrific defender, a good offensive player, and can do a lot of different things, to impact winning and impact our team.